Hi everybody, it's time for a new video. As you can see, I'm in my waterproof-ish polytunnel workspace thing, hiding from the rain. It's pretty light at the moment, but it's gonna check it down, and it actually just started getting a little bit harder right now. It's supposed to rain something like 45 millimeters today, which is a lot. That is a lot of rain. So I'm gonna be hiding in here, and my intention was to work on some sanding of this beam here, which has gotten wet because I totally forgot this thing leaks from up there. So that's annoying, but I only have a few pieces of sandpaper left, and I only have so much battery left because my solar is low, and so charging batteries is a low priority. So I'll do what I can. Luckily, Sinead has a much larger solar system, so I'll take the batteries down there and get more juice and hopefully get back at it when I have more power. So in the past couple days, I have been working, but I've had the camera mostly off. I wanted to just get things done, and filming everything can be tricky, but I did turn it on here and there for little bits and pieces. And the first thing I did a couple days ago was get a stone that was fortunately the perfect size, and I used that stone to extend it across to the other side of the staircase, the future staircase, and that's going to just allow me to visualize things so much easier, and it's going to go in front of Tracy the trumpet flower and eventually create a little wall there. So that was a job I really wanted to get done. I had a bunch of cement to use up, and I just wanted to get it in, obviously on a dry day, so it had some time to cure. And then yesterday, in the drizzly rain, it wasn't too bad, I braved the elements and went out with the angle grinder and searched for some stones for the second step, and also I put another stone on top of the wall. And those two stones involved cutting, and cutting stone is something I don't really enjoy, but when you get it done, it's really great because it takes a bit of work, it takes a bit of planning, but when it's done, it's kind of done forever. Stones last forever, for a really long time, and you really feel like you're making this thing that's just gonna exist in the landscape for a long time. So there's something very satisfying about it, even though the work is dusty and horrible, and even though moving these stones around is really quite strenuous. But the rain kept falling, and it started to get harder, and I decided to give up on the stonework, hide inside the house by the fire, and tackle it another day. And I did tackle it. I did get that stone in place as the second step. Not cemented in, but I've laid it out, and I'll show you guys that a little later on when the rain out there calms down a bit. So right now my plan is to use up the battery I have on here and the 3 pieces of paper that I have to try to sand a portion of this wood. This piece has been sitting outside for a while. It has I don't know if I can find it right now. Yeah, it's got a hole in it. So there's been some kind of creature that's burrowed in here. So it makes me really nervous about using this wood. But my plan is to actually use these chunky bits of wood cut in half as my rafters. I think it'll look a lot better to have the rafters the same depth as the thickness of the post and the width a little thinner. I think it'll just look cool. I also have these pieces of wood here. They're for my tool shed roof, so I'll probably keep those for that. I don't think they'll look as good because they're not quite as chunky. I think chopping these up is going to look pretty cool, hopefully, and being able to dissect this piece of wood by chopping it in half will allow me to also really see whether it's useful or whether it's been damaged too much. So I have a really amazing 2-battery Makita saw that will blast through this piece of wood with the grain. The smaller saw would really struggle, but unfortunately the blade I have on that saw is not good anymore. I think I must have hit a screw or something metal and completely damaged the saw blade. When I went into town the other day, they didn't have any, so I'm waiting to collect another saw blade. I ordered it online and I'll get that today. And once I do, I'll be able to chop this thing in half and see what it's looking like. But for the moment, I'm gonna get it sanded, and that's just gonna give me a nice easy start to my day before I try to figure out what else I can do in the workshop while it's raining. So let's get sanding and then see how this day progresses. So this is going to take a bit of work. This piece of wood is quite weathered and damaged on the outside, but I think it'll be fine on the inside. But just seeing the difference in color from that little bit of work to this part here is quite remarkable, really. I'll probably chop this end off because I have a feeling it's going to be damaged. But I'm just going to keep working at this until I run out of battery and check in again very soon. So I've done as much sanding as I can. The sanding paper is finished, and I was using 80 grit, which isn't really ideal. I should have been using 40, but I ran out, and I ran out of batteries. But I have some batteries here in this bag, ready to go down to Sinead's place to get plugged in. And I thought I'd switch focus a little bit and work on something I've been meaning to do for a really, really long time, and that's the other shelf. There's one that goes up here. I've made the shelf. It's been here, sitting in that corner, for months and months and months, and I think it's time to finally get it installed. But the tricky thing with this shelf is that it's not just about installing it. Oh, sorry, Mikey, I didn't mean to disturb you, sir. I've got these bottles here on the top, and they've got lights that run in them. So the shelf that goes up here needs to be able to open and close so I can change these batteries out or these lights out anytime they run out. So it's not just about fastening it on like this one. It's about coming up with some kind of a hinge system and then some sort of a system here where it sort of locks in place or sets into some dowels or something. So even though I've made the shelf itself and it's been here for a long time, it needs some more thought. And so I'm going to go to the polytunnel, see if I can find some hinges, and finally get to work on this thing. Actually, I've had a pleasant surprise. The hinges, for some reason, have been stored up here. So I've got the hinges. They'll go on sort of like this. I'll cut the shelf somewhere there. I'll fasten one side of it on that end. The rest of it will swivel up, hook in place here somehow. So that's my very rough plan. Let's get the hinges and the wood to the polytunnel workshop and see if I can pull this off. Okay, so before I get going on this shelf, I thought I would show you the work I did in the past couple days because we've had a break in the rain. Even though it looks super gloomy still, it's currently dry, so that's very nice. So the stone that I did on the sunny day is this guy here. I've put it into place to extend the wall across, and then eventually I'll probably do something on an angle or I don't know what. And this is going to stay as a ramp because it's very useful to have wheelbarrow access, especially since I plan on having a tool shed and a bit of a working area up here. And once I stick these steps in, you can't get a wheelbarrow up that anymore, not easily anyway. So even though it's been raining, the cement looks like it's cured nicely, and I'm very happy with that. And putting that stone in place allowed me to then place this one sideways, which then allowed me to measure the distance between these two stones to get that step in. I'm not entirely happy with this stone, but I feel like it's the best of a bad lot for this. And if I do things as planned, this sort of weird part here should be covered with the patio stones. Another thing I'm wondering about is whether to do just the 2 steps, or more likely I'm gonna do 3 steps, because it still has to go up quite a bit higher. So that's something still to consider. And then over here, I've got this long stone that I think will work really well in the front, but I'm gonna chop off either end before I put it in place. And then I think this one is here because I'm planning on using a portion of that one somewhere around here. I kind of forget, but the stonework kind of just comes to me as I do it. So things are looking okay. That stone looks pretty good when it's in place. And I'm really, really happy with this stone, especially because I didn't have to cut it at all. And I love a stone that I don't have to cut. So this is what it's looking like right now. I'm not going to be able to return to the stonework until the rainy days clear, possibly on the weekend. So for the moment, it's back to some woodwork, and I'll just get going on the shelf and see if I can knock this job off my list. It's a brand new day, and I've put the shelf work on hold, and that's because I was contacted yesterday by Window Guy, and allegedly he's coming today. So yesterday I had to do a little bit of work on the shelf, on the sill, so that the window frame would fit in a little bit further. It meant that I got the router out, I got the chisels out, and I basically shaved off just a little piece of the shelf so that everything's gonna fit, hopefully, nice and snugly. So I canceled the work on the shelf thing that I was making, and I'm gonna do that today instead. So I'm ready for Window Guy. I think he should be coming in a couple hours, and hopefully when he comes the rain stops. Otherwise he's gonna get dripped on from the roof, which would be quite unpleasant, I imagine. So let's go inside, I'll show you what I need to do, and then we'll get back out here to the leaky, drippy, kind of unpleasant polytunnel and get to work on this small carpentry project that I've been avoiding for a very long time. So forgive the gloominess in here. Most of my lights are off, and that's because my solar is really struggling today because we haven't had sun for a while. But let me just show you what I'm up to, and then we'll just get right into the work. I've marked out a little spot here to carve out some of the clay so that the shelf sits in a little bit more to the wall. So I am happy to see the rain, but I gotta say, working in this cramped polytunnel, which is also drippy, is not the ideal conditions. But I'm pretty anxious to get this done, so I'm just gonna push on. I'm not even really sure where to stand, actually. This thing is in the way of my butt, so I can't actually crouch down to saw. So let's see what I can come up with these long bits of wood. Maybe. That's better. I love these saws. The cuts take a lot longer, but with practice they're a lot more accurate, I think, than the circular saw. So if I can ever get through this thing, it'll be hopefully a nice, clean, straight cut. And if it's not, I'll just need to keep practicing. I've got my sander ready to go. I've got the pieces chopped and ready, but I'm telling you, this weather is insane. It sucks, and I have no idea how the window guy is going to install anything over there with all that water dripping. So I sent him a message to try to cancel, and I guess we'll see what happens, because it's been coming down in buckets for a very long time, and I'm completely out of power as well. So in short, I have said in the past that I'll never complain about the rain in Portugal. It's always wonderful to see it, but this is a little bit ridiculous. I don't know if I want to be out in this leaky polytunnel anymore, but I'm going to sand this, and then I'm going to go hide inside, stick the fire on, and see what happens with window guy and with this weather, because it is pretty brutal out there. I think I've found a little bit of a spot here without any drips, so let's get this thing sanded, and then I can take it inside and fasten on the hinges in there in the warmth and dryness of my house. The shelf has been sanded and the operation's been moved back indoors because it is still very ridiculous out here. It's lovely to see the rain, but not lovely to be out there working in it. And I've actually rescheduled window guy, hopefully for tomorrow. He said tomorrow morning, but hasn't confirmed just yet. So fingers crossed he comes. It'll be pretty brutal if I have to wait another several weeks because I canceled on him. But what can you do? So I've got the fire roaring. Some of that wood's a little bit wet actually, so it's not as roaring as it should be. And I've got my buddy Larry over here sitting in my seat. You're gonna have to move, little guy. You don't have to go outside because it's pretty miserable out there, but you're gonna have to let me sit down here because I have some work to do. So my first task is to whack a couple of coats of linseed oil onto this bad boy for protection. So there's been a change of plans. It looks like the rain has let up just a bit, so the polytunnel won't be quite as leaky, and even though it's cozy and warm in there, I shouldn't really linseed oil inside the house because it's quite stinky and fumy. So we're heading back to the polytunnel. So today has been pretty weird. I was very excited about the window guy, but the weather just was not agreeing with me. So it is pretty funny that I was the one to cancel on him. I'm really hoping he comes tomorrow. As he said, as of yet he hasn't said a time, but he did say the morning. So Fingers and toes are crossed once again that this guy comes. And if he can't make it, I guess it's kind of my own fault. He did say he would come and do the work, but I need a few things siliconed around the outside of my window box that I made. He's going to do that for me, but it's if it's wet, then I wonder if he'll be trapping the water inside if he does silicone it, and then if he doesn't silicone it, that leaves it up to me to do, which isn't really something I'd like to do. I don't love working with those tubey things. Tubes of chemicals are not my favorite things to work with, and silicone, much like spray foam, has gone awry for me on more than one occasion, so I'd rather leave it up to that guy. So let's see what happens. I've been patient so far, so another day hopefully isn't going to kill me, and tomorrow is looking nice and dry. So I'm just going to keep going with this, and I think I'll let it dry before I attach the hinges. It's not really that nice working with linseed oiled wood before it dries. It's mixed with turpentine, so it's a bit smelly, and it's quite oily as well, and not really that pleasant. So I'll let it dry until tomorrow and get the hinges on and get it all attached then. So I'll say goodbye from tonight. Hopefully I can find a spot in this polytunnel that's not too drippy. This part seems kind of okay. And then in the morning, hopefully there hasn't been water damage. And hopefully I can just put this thing into place. So I'll see you tomorrow for some more work on the shelf. Good morning, everybody, from a brand new day. The rain is still falling, the lights are off, but the solar is charging a little bit, which means there must be some light getting through the gloom. The raindrops are a lot lighter than they were yesterday, and that's good news because a lot of my friends have had leaks in their roof. They've had flooding on their land, and I've basically gotten off very lucky with just a couple leaks in the polytunnel. So this is the window hole as a whole, and hopefully that's the last time we'll see it like that. Window guy is due to come in about 30 minutes, or at least sometime this morning. We'll see. As with everything, he hasn't actually confirmed with me, but I did say sometime after 10 a.m., so hopefully he comes. And while I wait for him, this morning's task is to put the hinges on this thing and hopefully get it in place. Actually, before I get to the work, I can hear some water flowing down by my water source, so I'm curious to see what's happening down there because it sounds pretty fierce. It's definitely very soggy down here. You can see my garden in the distance with the path totally flooded. This is looking a little dubious. The water tank is totally full, and I'm pretty sure what I'm hearing down here is my overflow pipe, which unfortunately isn't actually connected to anything. And the worst part is that all I had to do to connect it was get a fitting from the plumbing store that I don't have currently and attach it to this pipe here. So the hard part's actually done. The pipes are buried, it runs underground, and all I had to do was hook it up, and I never did. But really the damage isn't too bad. It's just water in the paths of the garden. It's just gonna sink back into the land. And it is really good to know how much water does flow through here, because in the future I would love to get piping set up that takes the water all the way down the land. The pipes actually are already set up. And maybe steer everything to some lower ponds and some different waterways that kind of cascade all the way down the land, creating some interesting features and making some cool spots for wildlife as well. So yeah, I've got a little bit of flooding in the garden, but compared to what's happened to some of my friends' places, I'm definitely doing okay. Some of the rivers, small streams, have turned into rivers, and some of them have burst their banks or about to burst their banks. And yeah, it's pretty treacherous out there, but it does look like the sun is coming out today. And it also looks like I should pick some lemons because this branch is either broken already or it's about to break. So I'm going to use this crazy tree as an excuse to pick some lemons and make some cordial. But right now, guys, it's all about waiting for the window guy, enjoying the lovely sunny weather that we haven't seen for a while, and finishing off the shelf. So this was quite silly of me. I pre-drilled these 3 holes here because that's where I'm going to screw in to attach this piece to the top. But of course I did it without thinking about the hinges, and that's where the hinge needs to go. So if I have the hinge here, I can't really get access to this hole here. So I'm going to move this one along a little bit and chalk it up to yet another learning experience. And of course, I don't have enough short black screws, which is pretty annoying, but I'll probably just use something else temporarily just to get this done, and I guess replace them later on. Or maybe never replace them. Maybe it's just one of those things that stays how it is until the end of time, but my intention will be to replace them with the black screws. But for the moment, I only have 4 left. So I'll use them here and get this one in place. Okay, hinge is on. It opens and closes nicely. This isn't going to really be opened and closed very often. I probably should have marked the lines and put the things on before I oiled it, but oh well, nothing a little bit of sanding can't get rid of. And let's be honest, who's going to be looking up here anyway? This is my perfectionist self at work. So I just have one more thing to do before I can install this. I need to make a little kind of a catch thing for the shelf to sit in on the other end. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it will after I make the piece, I hope. So let's use this bit of wood that's just kind of hanging over here. And yeah, make the piece and all will be revealed. Come on. This thing doesn't have to be super accurate. Basically, I'm making a little nub to sit on the underside of the shelf that's going to sit into the top of the post on the other side where it closes. Again, maybe it makes no sense right now, but hopefully it will soon. And I'm actually going to angle this side so it sits in a little nicer. Something like this, maybe. Okay, a little bit of sandy. And we'll put it in place. So I've already sort of marked this out to go around here, in between these 2 points here. So I'm definitely in need of a screw resupply, but I think those ones will do the trick. So I'll just do a bit of chiseling so this thing fits in place nicer. And maybe you can hear some chatter in the background. The window guy is here, guys, and the window is looking amazing, and it's going into place. And I'm gonna be kind of a jerk, and I'm not gonna show you it until the next video. But stuff is happening. I'm very excited. It looks really cool. And I'm gonna have light in my house, which is amazing. It's been a very long time coming. And though I would love to show you now, I also like the idea of doing a big reveal. So I'm hopping out there, filming some of their work as they go. And the next video, you will see the elusive window. It exists, guys. It exists. And this is the final step. And then I'll oil it and get it into place. Oops. I think there's still some soap left on this brush from when I washed it yesterday. So it's a bit of a soapy, turpentine-y, linseed oily mix. Probably overkill to oil this, but I just like oiling everything just to protect it. One more thing to mention, I've got this little ridge in here that I routed out when I first made the shelf. This is so I can eventually run wires the whole way along and drop them into the bottles. And then on this side, it'll connect to the wall part, and I'll probably run a channel that goes to the wall and carve out a bit of the clay and then run a wire down, so maybe in the future I can turn it all on with a switch. So one more thing I'd like to do first before I install this thing is put a few small nails just on the end. These ones might actually be too small, just to give the clay something to grip onto. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get some bigger nails because these ones are kind of pitiful. They're pitiful nails. They will grip onto nothing. These will do a little better. But before I get on with that, I wanted to give you just a little sneak preview from far away of the window guy install because I'm not that much of a jerk. So you can kind of see some stuff is happening. The screen's going in. Everything's looking really good. And now, back to it. Okay, all this does is allow the clay to have something to grip onto inside the wall, and hopefully I've given myself enough space to actually fit this thing in. A couple more whacks, just to be sure. I don't know, it's a bit tricky to tell because I've got that nub thing there. But let's see if I can estimate. Estimate by measuring. All right, looks good. Let's get this thing in place. Whoops. Standing on the couch as scaffolding is not the best move. But at least if I fall, it'll be soft. So let's get this first screw in and then move on to the rest. Okay, all 3 screws are in. That's super sturdy. I'm very pleased with that. To do with the cords, what I'll probably end up doing is running a cord through the back and then chiseling out a bit of the clay and getting a bit of the clay out the whole way down. And that'll allow me to take a wire down there if I decide to. So I won't have to take this off in the future. In the future, I'll fill this mistake with wood glue, wood filler, and eventually I'll put dowels in those holes, just like I've done over here, so it's all nice and sealed off. But that's a job for another day. Right now, I need to make a little spot for this thing to sit in. So first things first, kind of mark it out sort of roughly, and then I'll get the drill out and the chisels. Things are definitely getting sawdusty in here. All right, final step. Let's chisel some of this wood out so I can get this little nubby thing to sit in place. And the whole purpose of that is just to make it so the shelf doesn't want to sway side to side. The cats do enjoy hanging out up here, so who knows if them walking around on this thing will destabilize the whole operation. I don't think so, but I just think it gives it a little bit of extra strength. Even if it is a really annoying job to be doing right now, because I'm definitely ready to be finished this. Okay, that's it chiseled out. I really hope this fits because I'm very tired. I have a lot of mess to clean up, not only the sawdust, but also the clay that I scraped out of the wall there. It just fell down there. And as you can see, I've stepped up the scaffolding to the next level. I'm standing on the back of the couch, which has given me a lot more leverage to chisel. But right now, it's time to drop this thing down to see if it actually fits. I hope it does because I'm very much sick of working on this. It was a lot more involved than I expected, so fingers crossed. That is looking really good. So I'm very pleased with this. I think it's sturdy. The cats will be able to hang out up here. It looks good from this side. I'm gonna stick a little piece of trim, similar to this one, onto this. But I'll wait until I'm ready to finish off the actual clay work. So there's still more to do. Running some wires, filling in the clay, and continuing on across with the shower. So yeah, it's been a nice little interlude back inside to work on this. But I feel like most people out there are all about the pergola at the moment. And now with this new development in the window installation, I feel like quite a few of you will be very keen to see that. So I'm gonna creep over here so as to not spoil the surprise of the window. I'm gonna work on that in the next video. I have a bunch of stuff that I still need to do now that the window frame is in place. And so I'm gonna reveal the window, show you the work that they did, and then I'm gonna carry on doing some stuff on the inside, including some plastering, rounding off the edges, and finishing off the windowsill as well. So that's gonna be a really good one. That's in the next video. And then I'm gonna get back to the pergola. And as you can probably see, I've moved the gas bottle box out of the way so the window guy could work. And that's also gonna help me when I do the marking out for the rafters for the pergola. So I'll probably move this thing back there, keep it out of the way, and then push on with the work on the pergola once I finish the window stuff. So this video took a turn. I wasn't expecting to work on this shelf, and I also wasn't expecting to film so much of it. I kind of got caught up in all the little nitty-gritty bits and pieces involved in finishing this thing off. And I hope you enjoyed it. It was pretty detailed stuff, but it's always been this sort of finicky project that's been haunting me for a while. So I feel really good that that's in place, and I feel even better that the window is in place. So that's all from this video. It's been a long one. It's been pretty diverse, a whole bunch of stuff, and I hope you enjoyed it. So that's all from me. Goodbye. I'll see you in the next video, and as always, thanks for watching.